Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in to our Young Worker March Town Hall with the NAACP Youth and College Division and AFGE. We will be getting started shortly. All right. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Couture Butler Reed, the National Training and Campaign Manager for the Youth and College Division of the NAACP. And we are so excited to have you and work with AFGE and dozens of partners into this Young Workers Town Hall in preparation for the Young Workers March on Saturday. First, I want to give you all some greetings from our staff, but also grounding you in the moment because we know that right now, of course, it's Black History Month. And so we are, of course, joyous and we're excited about our history and our culture, but we also know that the world is on fire right now. So we don't want to ignore the pains and the harsh realities that we have, but we have to remember that we must continue the legacy of our ancestors who have fought so hard for us to continue fighting, who have fought hard for our education, for our workers' rights, for our communities, for Black women, for Black men, for all those that we care about. So, of course, let's be grounded, but let's not stop. Let's continue working. Let's continue to push forward with freedom. Thank you. Yes, continue dropping in the chat. Where are y'all coming from? We got some youth councils in the building. All right. Yes. Drop your units, drop your youth council, drop your states, drop your unions. We know some union partners are on here today. So we want to make sure we're acknowledging each other. Let's fight. So now I'm going to bring up our fearless leader, our Chief of Field Membership Growth and Unit Sustainability, Dominic Whitehead.
Thank you so much for that, Couture, and good evening, everyone. Good evening. As Couture just said, happy Black History Month. It is a lot happening in the world, but we still have awesome things to be thankful for because we know that Black folk is the fabric of this country, and we are celebrating that all Black History Month and all year long. As Couture said, I'm Dominic Whitehead, the Chief of Fields here at the NAACP. I would love to bring greetings on behalf of our national president and CEO, Derek Johnson, and our chairman of our board, Mr. Leon Russell, as well as just giving a huge shout out and thank you to our partners over at AFGE, President Everett Kelly, who is a true partner in the fight with NAACP and all of civil rights organizations across the country, day in and day out. And of course, our fearless labor chair, who you all will hear from a little later this evening, for the NAACP, Robin Williams on the National Board of Directors. But this evening is not about all of that, right? It is about the work that young people are about to do on the front line in real time. We are seeing what is happening across the country. You name it, whether it is the ICE raids that we're continuing to see, or the immigration fights that we're seeing, the militarization of policing, the rollbacks and the cutbacks of DE&I. But when I see the front lines and I think about the front lines, I continue to see young people on the front lines. When I think about what is happening right now and what you all are headed to DC to do this weekend and march on behalf of young workers, marching on behalf of young workers and engaging on behalf of young people in this country to ensure that folks have not fair jobs and wages, making sure that the economy works for everybody and not just some is an important thing. And the connection between civil rights and labor goes so deep, especially with the NAACP. And I think about Black History Month in this moment, and I think about the connections between NAACP and the labor movement, whether it be the late Bill Lucy from AFGE and the work that he's done to connect workers' rights for public sector workers all over this country, but particularly in Memphis, Tennessee, when we think about the moment directly there with Dr. King, his last piece, his last major organizing campaign, the Poor People's Campaign was there in Memphis, Tennessee, alongside of the NAACP and AFSCME and so many other organizations on the ground. So as you all go out this weekend and go out through this webinar, think about that in this moment. But not only think about that in this moment, think about what we have to do this year. Think about democracy that we have to protect this year and this moment. And so as you're marching for worker rights over this weekend and continue to engage in centering the importance of that, know that we are also marching for the soul of this nation, and we're marching for democracy as well, and connecting the dots with all the attacks that are happening across the country. Attacks on labor, attacks on civil rights, attacks on women's rights, attacks on people of color, attacks on immigrants in this country, all the attacks, you all are marching for that. And we appreciate young people on the front line. So I'll stop here, Couture, and just tell everyone thank you. Stay in the fight, be in the fight. We got this. We know things don't look great right now, but there is something coming on the other side. I know that for a fact that there will be something coming on the other side. And we only can do that with each and every one of you. So I look forward to listening into this town hall this evening, but most importantly, I look forward to seeing worker power, civil rights power, young people power in the streets of Washington, D.C. this weekend, making some noise and doing the damn thing. Let's go.
Yes, round of applause to our chief. Thank you so much for those words. And like you said, there's something on the other side. Right now, we're in pain. You know, we're feeling so much pain and so much agony, and we're being terrorized, we're being beaten, etc. But on the other side, we know that there's freedom on the other side. There's liberation on the other side. There is joy on the other side. So we have to continue to work towards that. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our interim national director, Derek Lewis, and he's also going to be introducing our next speaker from AFGE. Thank you, Derek. All right, give us one moment, y'all. All righty. And while we wait, y'all, drop in the chat. Where are you all coming from? Are y'all fired up? Georgia Park State Youth Advisor in Kentucky. Kentucky is in the building. Los Angeles is in the building. Who else is here? New Jersey is in the house. Welcome in, welcome in. California. Medgar Evers College. Okay, James. So many people joining. We're so excited to have you. And now I'm going to pass it to our fearless leader and my comrade in the work, Derek Lewis.
Hey, good evening, youth and college leaders. I hope that you are doing well. I want to say thank you to Couture for organizing this call for our youth and college leaders. When we think about meeting this moment, we have to understand that we can't do it alone. It won't be the NAACP by ourselves who are going to be the ones to solve our current problems, but who we'll be working with in collaboration and coordination with so that we can continue to move on what is ahead. When we think about when we think about this moment, you always hear me saying, what does it mean for us to have people power? And people power means that we have to be in coordination and collaboration with our partners who are doing the work. So it's not just civil rights orgs, but it's also those who are in labor and also in union workers to ensure that we're having a unified voice, a unified front for what it means for us to meet this moment. Now, today, we're talking. Today, we're educating. Today, we are informing and talking about the problems that are hitting our communities when it comes to this debt crisis. But on Saturday, everybody put in the chat Saturday. On Saturday, we joined unions, labor, civil rights organizations, other partners in this work to ensure that we turn out and we show people power, not just with our presence, but most importantly, our voice to the current issues that matter most to us. So if you are able, if you are willing, if you are in the space within this DMV area and or Region 7, we ask that you all join us for the Young Workers March on Washington so that we stand in one unified front in collaboration with laborers, with unions, with young workers, with understanding that we are all in this interconnected debt crisis, and we can't get out of it unless we're working for all of us. One thing that I want to leave you all with is that when we think about this current moment, how we're going to meet it and actually be successful in it, we have to be able to tell the truth. And to tell the truth is something similar to what Dr. King said about the two tales of America, is that we may live in the same America, but it's also in two different realities. One reality where one is promised into the milk and honey of the world, where they have all the access, all the resources to be successful. But most importantly, there's another reality where you have folks who live in the same city, but not afforded to the same opportunities. And that's what we're pushing. That's what we're going to amplify. But that's also what we're fighting for, to ensure that we have equity and equality to ensure that we can get there. So, Couture, thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Dr. Kendrick and others who are supporting us on this journey. But there's just a moment in between civil rights organizations and unions and labor. But this is a movement that we will continue to that we will continue to work on past this moment so that we can be successful overall to fight for liberation and thrive in the community so that and thrive in the communities that we all deserve in. So thank you all. I can't wait to see you all on the ground Saturday, and I'll kick it back to you, Couture.
All right, like Derek said, we are super excited for Saturday. Of course, this is merely the kickoff, but we are fired up and we are ready to work. And what I want to take the time to do right now is pass it to someone who is the brains behind what's going on here on Saturday, the man with the plan. And I really want you all to listen to these words and listen to the passion and conviction that he's had. Sometimes we talked earlier and we mentioned, like, sometimes it's just vision. It's vision. And this is such a timely conversation. So I want to introduce Dr. Kendrick Roberson from the American Federation of Government Employees. Kendrick, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here with everybody. My name is Dr. Kendrick Roberson. I am a national vice president over at the American Federation of Government Employees, where we represent federal and DC workers, especially during these times where we're dealing with this administration. And in my role, I'm over AFGE's Civil Rights Department. So that includes our Women's Department, our Fair Practices Department, all of our constituency groups, and our Young program, our Young Worker program. And I manage a team of civil rights attorneys, and we protect workers from discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, religion, disability, age, genetic information, and retaliation. We do this nationwide, and we're good at it, right? And we at AFGE, again, we are a union that represents over 800,000 federal workers nationwide. And I just want to be clear that there is nothing more American than working people banding together, rising up together, and flexing our constitutional rights to organize together. That's the America that we believe in. It's the America that we pledge allegiance to, and it's the America that we fight for. But in that same vein, there is nothing more un-American than billionaires and oligarchs undermining our democracy, undermining our constitutional rights, and undermining the power of us, the people. And that's why we're having this Young Worker March on Washington. And we're really excited about it. It's happening this weekend. This is the first Young Worker March in history, right? This is the first in history, a march that is dedicated to the economic conditions of young workers has never happened before. And so this is something that we're really excited about. And I mean, it's time because young workers in America have been sold a raw deal, right? We were sold on the American dream, but when we woke up as adults, we've seen across the board an economic nightmare. And tell me if I'm wrong, but housing costs are too high, right? Heck, rent costs are too high, grocery costs are too high, education costs are too high, childcare costs are too high. And so we are marching on Washington for the future of young workers on this upcoming Saturday. For these reasons, we'll be convening over at the Hyatt Regency at 400 New Jersey Northwest here in Washington, D.C., and then marching to the United States Capitol at 11 o'clock a.m., right? And this is an inter-union worker event. This is not just a small scale one union type movement. This is all of us coming together. We've got folks from, of course, my union, AFGE. We've got APWU in the house. We got National Nurses United, who you'll hear from later. You've got the Painters Union. You've got National Education Association. You've got National Association of Letter Carriers, right? We've got the Machinists Union, the United Auto Workers Union, and of course, NAACP. And so we've got so much going on, and we want to make sure that you all are there. And we're going to be addressing some real issues, like how many of us are more educated and make more money than our parents did at our age, and yet we can't purchase the same home that our parents did when they were our age. Or like how healthcare is so expensive that many people will literally suffer through major injuries and illnesses because they don't know if they can afford the ambulance bill or the hospital bill. And I'm not just saying that. This is something that happened to me. I got into a motorcycle accident and the ambulance came and they said, "Hey, we want to take you to the hospital." And I said no, because I was worried about what that bill would look like. And so I limped on home, right? This happened to me when I was a little bit younger, right? And we'll also address how not raising the minimum wage is suppressing all of our wages at every income range, except those at the top who benefit from this. See, I'm a professor at UCLA and Pepperdine University. And as a professor from UCLA's Labor Studies Department, I teach a class that's called We Gonna Be All Right, the future of Black labor organizing. And so allow me to let you know about the insidious strategies that are being used against us. Right? In political science, much research is focused on this idea called policy drift, which is basically when over time a given policy drifts away from meeting its original purpose. Right? This is what happened with the federal minimum wage. The minimum wage was designed it was designed intentionally to be a living wage. When it was first introduced, the federal minimum wage could allow a worker to have a place to stay, afford their food and other basic needs, and have a money left over for some entertainment. And because of that, the minimum wage was very popular. So people who were opposed to the minimum wage, adversaries to the minimum wage, they knew they couldn't just repeal it. That would be political self-sabotage. So instead, their strategy was to increase the federal minimum wage by less than inflation and with longer and longer intervals between increases, so that over time, the people working the jobs that earn minimum wage have effectively received a massive pay cut over the past several decades. And that is why policy drift is sometimes referred to as the do nothing strategy. And it's effective because by doing nothing, by not updating the minimum wage as inflation increases, these politicians can avoid the political backlash associated with getting rid of the minimum wage while slowly attaining their goal of making the minimum wage meaningless. And to that point, the minimum wage has not been increased since I graduated high school in 2009. This is the do nothing strategy of policy drift. It's effective, and it's so effective that we now actually have to argue for a living wage as if that wasn't the original intention of the minimum wage in the first place. Enough is enough. The best time to raise the minimum wage to a living wage was 16 years ago. The next best time is today. And look, billionaires and oligarchs want you to believe that you don't have the power to make real change in this country. They want you to believe that we don't have a choice. They want you to believe that you should do nothing. But here's the truth. This country doesn't run without our labor, point blank, period. And for every protection and wage that workers have in this country, it wasn't handed to us by some kind of billionaire that was very kind and an oligarchy that wanted us to have good things. No, we had to stand up, we had to march, and we had to demand that we have rights and fair pay. It takes mass action, right? It's Black History Month. And when you say March on Washington, for most people, the first thing they think of is Martin Luther King and I Have a Dream and the Civil Rights Movement on that August day in 1963. And that's great. But remember, what is the full name of the March on Washington, right? It's the March on Washington for jobs and freedom. It was a labor march. So when I tell you that it's up to us to demand a better future for these United States, I'm not just saying that. Throughout history, it is the fight for fair labor that has propelled this country toward equity, and it is going to be labor that wakes this country up from this economic nightmare. I read somewhere that faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. And there are many people who see all that is happening in this country, but they are not rallying with us. They are not calling Congress with us. They are not educating the masses with us. But they believe that somehow we are going to prevail. But guess what? Their faith without works is dead. You can't be like an ostrich and stick your head in the sand and expect the danger to go away. Your wealth, your careers, your livelihoods, they are all on the menu. And we have to fight back together. James Baldwin once said, "We will not find our salvation in the future. The challenge is in the moment. The time is always now." And I get that there are limitations to what we all can do. But I know for a fact that everyone can do something to further the movement. Remember, when we won our civil rights, our human rights, our worker rights, it wasn't just Martin Luther King, A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, Roy Wilkins, and John Lewis. No, I tell you, it was the millions of people who bravely showed up in solidarity to move this nation forward. And now we are once again facing an agenda that seeks to move us backwards. And it's time for all of us to show up and pull our nation forward. And we're not up next. We got now. Right. And so I'm really excited for this Young Worker March that we have on Saturday. Come to the march, make your presence known, make the demands clear. Power concedes nothing without demand. It's Black History Month, and that's a Frederick Douglass quote. We got to demand more from this nation because we deserve it. And that's my call to action. So I'll see you all on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
No, thank you, Dr. Kendrick. I bet you all did not know that we will be having class today. So thank you so much, for all of the amazing work that you are doing. And the time is now. The time is always now to do the work. So we are so excited, and we will see you on Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Drop some love in the chat, you all, for Dr. Kendrick Roberson. So now we will be getting into our fireside chat. Please know that we will also have an opportunity for questions, but we ask that you use the questions feature in the chat, for the questions later. So first, I will be introducing, of course, ladies first. So starting with Natalie Martin. Natalie is the first vice president of George Washington University NAACP chapter. She is a third-year Posse Scholarship at the George Washington University, studying political science with a minor in organizational sciences on a pre-law track. She's passionate about advocacy, teaching, and debate. She's also committed to driving change through leadership. And something that she hasn't also mentioned yet, but she is also one of our college affordability ambassadors. So let's welcome Natalie to the chat. All right. Next, we will be having Dominique Drew. Dominique is a 22-year architectural, metal and glass worker, and now the IUPAT's member engagement specialist dedicated to building power through connection, purpose, and action. Representing over 160,000 members across the U.S. and Canada, she works across district councils to strengthen leadership, develop organizers, and create spaces where members rediscover who they are and the collective power that they hold. Thank you so much for joining us, Dominique, with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Also joining us is Aaron McCormick. He is a registered nurse and labor leader based in Michigan with more than a decade of experience in bedside nursing and professional advocacy. He has been a registered nurse since 2014 and currently works as a float RN at Michigan Medicine, where he has practiced across multiple specialties and care settings. This broad clinical experience has shaped his core belief that patient safety, quality care, and strong working conditions are inseparable. He also serves as the president of the Michigan Nurses Association and vice president of the University of Michigan Professional Nurse Council and Vice President of the National Nurses United. Let's welcome Aaron in. And last but certainly not least, Brandon Cahey, Esquire, proud native of Houston, Texas, and he resides in the Washington, D.C. area and holds a JD from the University of Baltimore School of Law and a BA from Howard University. Brandon is the senior program and policy analyst in the Center of Social Justice at the National Education Association, the nation's largest labor union representing more than 3 million members. He leads the NEA's African American outreach and engagement efforts focused on identifying, establishing, and coordinating strategic partnerships that advance in public education through a racial and social justice lens. Thank you for joining us, Brandon. So, let's get into this conversation. We have all been just discussing and just kind of just getting excited because it's Black History Month, so everybody's just all excited and we listening to our Mary J. Blige and we're listening to our Get Up Stand Ups from Bob Marley. So we have some great energy here today. I'm so excited for this panel. But I also want to know, and I also want to start with this because we know that organizing often comes with urgency and anger, and a lot of times lived experiences through pain and hardship. One of the other days when I was talking to Dominique, a word kept coming up, sustainability. So when we think about ICE raids, when we think about mass job losses, when we think about attacks on our freedoms of speech, how do we honor, and this question is for everyone, just to kick us off right and to further ground us, but how do we honor the pain that people are carrying, but still being grounded in the work that we must do to be free? How do we keep that sustainable? What does leadership look like in conversation with sustainability, in conversation with the capacities that we have? Many of you have so many different leadership roles, but how do we stay sustainable in that? And I'll start it off with Aaron. Yes, you.
But that's all right. Well, good evening, everyone. So like you said, it's a lot of anger out here. And the thing with anger is anger burns out fast. Sustainability to me means that, we don't just build movements where it's the same people everywhere you see, right? You know, I do a lot, but we all should spread the word. We don't want anybody to get exhausted. As a young leader, I focus on spreading the word, building new leaders, and making sure people know that they're not supposed to do this alone. We also got to think about rest. You got to think about rest and care because this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. We don't try to make it to point B because we'll probably never make it to point B. We have to keep making changes along the way and we have to keep fighting along the way. So, to be sustainable, pretty much spreading the workout, depend on your brothers, sisters, siblings and this union fight. We're a team, cross union, it's not just us, and that's what we have to realize. It's not just us in this fight.
And I appreciate that because the sole premise of us having this conversation is it's not just us. It's so many of us that are going to be there on Saturday. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Dominique if you could add because that's where the conversation was really birthed at from that phone call that we had.
No, definitely. Just like Brother Aaron said, it's what are we doing, right? I think about mobilization versus organization. We're showing up for something. We believe in something because it's what it is right now, especially dealing with the current situation and the state of our anybody of color being attacked by ICE. And how do we not blow up the building, right? Because we need that building, right? But how do we get rid of something and make something better without blowing it up? Because we need that. So sustaining is meeting the needs of the right now without compromising what we need to reach those goals and to get to the future that we all want, what our ancestors, what our elders, our legacy members of different constituency groups that we're a part of. How do we get to this right now and fix this to not compromise what we still need? So that's what I think about sustainability, and all of us play a part, no matter if you're in leadership, you're a worker, you just started today, or you're walking out that door in retirement. We all are a part of this.
Yes. Um, the question about like how do we not just blow it up, how do and making sure that we never compromise our integrity, we never compromise our roles, we never compromise anything, standing in that. And but you also mentioned the future, and I know, and I'm looking at you, Natalie, as someone who is a young leader in, NAACP Youth and College Division. We know that the conversation looks a little bit different on campuses. So could you also shed some light as to how are you all maintain you because y'all are young, 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 young. So how are y'all maintaining and building towards sustainability?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely think that urgency is what kind of gets people involved in the movement, and then sustainability is what keeps them there. I think it's very, very, very important that leaders remember that, yes, while it's sad, while we're angry out here, we can't wallow in that despair. And unfortunately, we don't have that privilege because we're fighting the same fight that my grandparents, my great grandparents fought, right? So that's really frustrating. But again, when we're talking about making sure that we are still celebrating our small wins, because that's what motivates people. So I know from a youth and college perspective, we may not be exactly where we want to be, but it's very important to remind the units and the regions around us that we are. Every small win is something that's one more step closer. So while no, I go to George Washington University. So while no, we may not be able to get the National Guard off of campus, we can host a teach-in and tell people what they should do. We can host a teach-in and explain to people what the political landscape of the District of Columbia looks like right now. But it's really important that we make sure that we're not allowing each other to wallow in despair. And then I think it connects back to what Mrs. Drew was saying and Mr. McCormick were saying as well, when they're saying that community really is one of our greatest resources. I think the NAACP is actually an excellent example. I go to GW, right? So I'm in Region 7. I have all of these other leaders that I'm connected with, and those are my brothers and sisters in the work and in the movement. So I think it's really easy for us, especially all my Black women out there. We try to be Superman, we try to be Superwoman, like we can't do it all. So just remembering that we do have partners in this work for a reason, and just continuing to keep each other encouraged, because the burnout is real and it can have devastating consequences.
Ooh, who knew that the youth would be teaching us a thing or two about how we need to be keeping sustainable? And what you said about, utilizing your resources and leaning on each other. And I'm looking to Brandon now with NEA because, this is one of our consistent partners in this work. So, Brandon, could you please share more about like what sustainability looks for you all? And y'all have so many members, so it's like, how do you maintain that?
Thanks for that, Katura, and thank you for the warm introduction. And I first have to say, before getting to the question, I'm so glad to be here with the dynamic panelists that are here, the speakers, and really an allyship, as you shared. I'm with the NAACP, which is a longstanding partner of the NEA. And on behalf of our president, Becky Pringle, we just bring you greetings. On behalf of our over 3 million members that are educators, educator support professionals, and even students in the classroom who are learning and want to enter into the profession. We truly thank you for your dynamic leadership, that of Derek Lewis and also President Johnson as well. So as I get into the question, we are really, and everyone knows that here on this call, are organizing in a time driven by urgency. But as we think about all of the work that we're doing this understanding that there are real threats to our rights right now, to our communities, and to our futures, the future of America. But this often urgency, as many of the other panelists shared, comes with anger and lived pain. And we know that that can be powerless catalyst for action, but we also know that that leads to burnout. So usually when I travel around the country and I present around organizing and community outreach, some of the things I really think about, and as we think about rooting our service through leadership through service, which I know many of you that are here joining do, I often share a few reminders too, as you said, Katura, to really think about sustainability and how to really keep yourself up during these times. And so I'll share a few. So first, you must lead in a methodical and strategic way. And I think that's very important as we're thinking about how we transform moments into movements, because we need those movements to create transformative change. And that requires for ourselves to be here for the long haul and not just for the immediate crisis. Second, we all know in this movement, we don't have to reduplicate the wheel. We don't have to reinvent things, right? But look at models that already exist and strategies that are proven, because sustainable organizing means learning from one another, learning what we can do together and how we can support those efforts to not only share resources, but know that no one's carrying this burden alone. Third, know that this work can't be done in isolation, as I'm sharing. We have to have true, authentic relationships and partnerships to be able to see this fight through the end. And last, given the really insurmountable attacks on our rights and our freedoms, on workers' rights, right? We need to seek to always think about others first. That's why we do this work, because of others, right? And really understanding what this moment means, because others are truly depending on us, so that they can truly grow into their brilliance. But what we know the truth really is that we need everyone in this movement right now. We need everyone in this movement for it to be successful. So that means prioritizing not only yourself so that you can show up truly, but come rested, come supported, and come connected. And so that's what we have to do right now to win this fight.
Yes, I'm hearing rest. I'm hearing support. I'm hearing lean on each other in doing this work. So thank you all for answering that question. I always like to talk about like, what does mental health and sustainability look like for us all? I think that that's a question that we have to constantly ask ourselves. But the other part about that is just knowing that, there are so many of your teachers and nurses who are just so essential to our everyday lives. And I want to really talk to you, Aaron, a little bit about this question too, because we know that, with the recent passage of the not so beautiful bill, um, nursing isn't necessarily considered or, consistently being recognized as a professional degree anymore in a lot of key programs in institutions. So, from what you're hearing, what are the implications of that for nurses currently? But also, I'm thinking about young students who are thinking about, pursuing that as a degree, or, those who are already planning in school for that to be a profession. What is that conversation looking like? Because that's a huge hot topic.
Well, the first part of the question, what does it mean for nurses now? To me, it sends a clear message that our work is essential, but the workers are disposable. We don't feel as though we're as important as these hospital system claims we are, as the country claims we are. Nursing is generally voted number one respected profession, except by the government right now. For those young nurses and students, what it means is immediate more debt, fewer long relief options, and less institutional support compared to other professions that may require less training. Some entering nursing right now, you're asked to take on a massive responsibility, emotional labor, because honestly, it's more mental than physical when it comes to nursing, because you're dealing with sick people who this may be their last day. Sometimes it's their last day. We're dealing with those sick people, and we have to carry that. We're also dealing with risk, and without the financial protections that should come from a professional career. And it's not just as nurses, it's other professional degrees, it's social workers, it's educators. If you're not a doctor, a lawyer, or a dental hygienist, it seems like they don't really want to view you as professionals. So right now, I will say the policy isn't put into place yet, but it will be. We're in the open public comment phase. So right now, from February 2nd to March 2nd, so this is the time for the public to speak up. So if you know anybody that support nurses, which we all do, because we all support each other. Anybody to support nurses, we would appreciate you to speak up to the federal government, because they're showing us a lack of respect, and we have to show them as a nation that we won't take that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's a question that is coming up. And just to reiterate that you all are not disposable to us. We recognize, your importance, and we just thank you, Black man. We appreciate you for all that it is that you are doing to advocate for those voices, but all nurses, all teachers, all everybody who is investing and pouring into the community. We appreciate you all. And so with that, understanding that, there are different avenues as to, what jobs look like, what careers look like, what even going to school looks like. But to my understanding, Dominique, you all offer different apprenticeships and lifetime trainings, workforce development, and whatnot. And I wanted to ask, what preventative measures are you all prioritizing now to protect those kinds of job securities and workers' rights that weren't or aren't always as necessary, and maybe they didn't even exist 5 or 20 years ago. So, what does that shift tell us about the reality of young workers who are entering into these kind of professions?
Oh man, we do so much. I mean, from every member to our general president, to the apprentice, we are currently in a state of what the rest of the country is going through, protecting what we have. And I think the main focus on to preserving is educating our members. I mean, I don't know how many times we can go anywhere and talk about anything unions. What's this mean? What's this acronym mean? And we don't know. We don't know how to come up in a meeting or call Congress or send a letter or anything to do to better you as a person, not just as a union member, but as a human being. So one of the most important things, and that I'm grateful and humbled by to be a part of that educating part. Going, we cover 30 district councils, and we're going to each district council and trying to reach every single member, not just saying, hey, how you doing? We're literally sitting down now, and what do you need? What do you want to know? What do you need in your arsenal? What piece of armor you don't have, to make sure that you know what's going on, especially when we are the finishing trades. So I like to lovingly say, whatever you see that's finished in your schools and your in the malls, in the hotels, in the hospitals, that's what we do, And if you don't know, the attacks on us is that this administration is trying to dumb down our certifications, and with painting and how I'm trying to say this without getting all too much, but dumbing down certifications so anyone can walk in, right? Instead of taking that education, that apprenticeship, that ongoing training. Because just because you went through an apprenticeship for 3 to 5 years, it doesn't end there. We're still showing up. We're upgrading ourselves. We're in training. We have options to work with colleges and getting degrees. But if we're not talking to our members and we're not educating our members, there's nothing to preserve. So I think that's the first key, is actually getting in every member's face, making sure they know that they are valued and we are nothing without each other.
Ooh. And what you said, it's almost like we're expected to start cutting corners. And we look, everybody shook their heads. We're expected to cut corners. And um that isn't conducive for sustainability either. You got to do the work. You have to learn. There's a reason why we have practices in place. There's a reason why we have opportunities for you to learn more. So, thank you for that. And now, and with that, because you also mentioned advocacy, and this is something that I've talked about with our college affordability ambassadors. We recently had a convening where we had just leaders from all over, come. Many of them are dropping messages in the chat now, but just going back to you, Natalie, and us kind of having those conversations about how can you all be advocating. I want to think about the actual harsh realities that you all are facing, because a lot of times people see young people, they feel like, oh, you don't have nothing to worry about in the world. But in reality, there are rising costs on housing, tuitions, transportation, and it's such a blessing that, you've been able to have a scholarship, but there are so many people like you who might not have those opportunities. So how are these kind of constraints shaping decisions about the work that you do, about you considering school, and where people can afford to live? Or maybe it's some of your classmates, maybe it's some of your peers, but how is these new costs and tuition and et cetera, how is that shaping your reality?
Yes, I'd love to tackle this question. I think a lot of times when people think of the words college affordability, our minds automatically go to tuition and what it means to actually be enrolled in school, which is important. But I think a lot of times what also gets lost is all the things that college students need in order to be successful in college. So that's access to quality healthcare, that's access to quality food, that's access to ways of transportation. We're in Foggy Bottom, DC. So if you can't pay for the bus fare that's just gone up, then you might not be able to get around, things of that nature. I know my classmates are starting to get tickets because they might not have their Metro card. So they might tap someone else, but instead of them getting a warning, they're automatically getting hit with a $50 to $70 ticket for fare evasion in the city and things of that nature. And then people want to be so quick to turn around and say, oh, well, it's only 275. Okay, some students genuinely don't have that 275 to get back and forth to work, right? So I definitely think that is a problem, on top of the fact that we all know that with the big, beautiful bill, well, the big, ugly bill, actually, they've cut back a lot on how much college students are able to borrow, especially with graduate plus loans and as well as parent plus loans. They've ended the income-based payback on federal loans as well. And so this is making it so a lot of people are having to drop out a semesters earlier, having to take breaks to figure out how they're going to be able to afford to stay in school. And unfortunately, it does come to the point where people have to decide whether or not they want to stay in school or whether or not they need to stop and work and then come back so they can afford another semester. I'm fortunate to attend a private institution where they don't necessarily have to listen to the federal government as strictly as some other institutions. But even with the attacks on DEI, I have friends whose scholarship funding has gotten cut and their programs no longer exist, and that's how they were funding their education. So I think it's really important when we're thinking about college affordability to center the idea that yes, it includes tuition, but all of this is cyclical, right? So I think it's important that we not just focus on what it costs to actually be in school, but once the kids are in school, they need support as well. So that's something that we're working on as a college affordability team, as well. But that's just some of the thoughts I have.
Oh, thank you for that. We really appreciate the perspective of young people, because it was much different when I was in school years ago. And look, y'all don't need to know when, but when I was in school, or maybe a couple people in the audience, when you all were in school, the costs were totally different. And even staying on campus, or even the cost of books maybe wasn't even the same cost. So you all are having some really deep conversations now, which I'm glad that you're having now, because when I think about those who, healthcare workers or those in education, a lot of you all, Brandon and Aaron, a lot of those professionals are navigating student debt, burnout, workforce shortages. We're in a time where over 300,000 Black women are losing jobs, and we are often the most educated and often, of course, overqualified. But thinking about those debt, I'm gonna say it again, debt, because I'm not, look, I have debt as well, so I'm not, absolved of that. I still have those issues, and maybe even some of you on this panel. But when we're thinking about that, so how does this show up for your members? What does collective power look like when institutions fail essential workers? And I want to first start with Brandon, but I also want you, Aaron, to answer that question as well.
Thanks for that, Katura. And as many have mentioned, I mean, we're in a complete fight right now. And what we're witnessing, as many of you know, is a firsthand concerted effort to attack public education, which many of us know is a cornerstone of our democracy. And the only way to do that is to what? Attack their right to a public and equitable education. And so whether it's from the dismantling to the Department of Education, which we all know was very essential to really upholding many of those essential rights of our students throughout this country, we are completely doing anything and all we can, because what do we do right all the time as our unions and as civil rights and labor together? What do? We always fight together to win together. And when we don't have those essential functions being carried out by these essential entities that should be doing that to ensure our students can truly grow into their brilliance, what do we do? As always, whether it's Black women-led organizations, coalitions, we are essential to filling those gaps, to providing those essential resources when our communities need them most. And so, as you mentioned, our educators, I mean, so many of them, and even myself as a worker at an education union, we have to take out to achieve a higher education, and especially if you're from more marginalized communities, student loans. And many of us suffer from having and incurring student loan debt. But we also know that when you have that, and depending on what kind of career you go into, for instance, education, and when we talk about our educators, we're not just talking about people in the classroom, right? That could be cafeteria workers, that could be school bus drivers, that could be crossing guards. Those are also members of the NEA as well. And when we think about many of those essential careers, sometimes you don't really see those as those higher earning types of careers, right? So we have to understand that our educators and those people that serve in those essential functions don't even make considerably equitable and fair pay to be able to offset those costs that it takes to achieve that higher education. And then in retrospect, if you do, the problem that gets into when you're thinking about entering to the profession, because everyone sees education as a noble profession, but what does it look like when you know that you won't be able to earn the income to be able to achieve whatever you want to after you get out of college? And so we know what that leads to, right? Not just burnout from our educators that have gone through it, but it leads to a lack of recruitment and retention of educators. And specifically, what we're seeing across the country is a lack of recruitment and retention of educators of color. And what we know is most important as we're thinking about when our students, are many of us that are on this call, when you're able to truly see yourself in a classroom from an educator that looks like you, that comes from diverse perspectives, and brings their all to a classroom, we know that their outcome will be totally different. And so NEA, alongside our allies such as NAACP and so many people here, are truly standing in the gaps, focusing on what we can do, because we can't just be here on calls, right? We have to advocate in multiple places. We have to advocate in the courtroom, and we're winning and we're seeing those wins. We have to advocate in the streets. And that's why we're all coming together on Saturday alongside AFGE. And thank you, Dr. Kendrick, and everyone else for pulling this important conversation and so many other voices into that space on Saturday. And then also outside of that, we know that we just have to work in allyship together and hosting dynamic conversations like this to keep that continuum moving forward, because we have to do all we can right now to truly combat what we're seeing in our schools and communities.
Thank you for that, Aaron.
I just want to say ditto to what Brother Barron was saying because it was so good. But no, but let me try to backtrack. Collective power when we feel like the institutions fail. Um, when institutions fail to protect the essential workers, collective power means that we stop working individuals, right? We can't do this alone and start acting together. What does that look like? That's of course organizing, that's bargaining strong contracts as strong as we can. And that's not always just having your labor rep or your lawyer at the table. No, that's reaching out. Like, hey, how did you all get this? How did you all get that? I really wish every union could have their contract on their website so people can see what other unions get so we all can try to, build together. Um, it means, well, I know for nurses most definitely, but for us all, it means setting enforceable staffing standards. One thing I heard earlier was cutting corners. They want to, more students in classroom, more patients to nurses, less people working on these buildings, less people is their goal, pretty much. And we can't let that happen. So collective power, we have to hold our employers, we have to hold these organizations accountable, especially when the employers and the policy makers won't act on their own. It's not abstract. It's workers deciding they deserve better and building power to make that better unavoidable. And we heard about the rising student debt. Kind of chiming off the last question, but building to this question. Many of my members ask, uh, can I afford to do this? Not, do I love this work? Because you can love the work, but hey, if the work don't pay the bills, let's keep it real. The work don't pay the bills. What you gonna do? You got to pay the bills. Nurses and educators, like I said, we're doing more with fewer people. Many of our pay does not keep up with inflation. Let's be honest. Like, and if we don't bargain hard, we all have brothers, sisters, siblings that are not unionized. I think about non-union nurses that make a third of what unionized nurses make in popular cities. Some nurses barely make $22 an hour, but people think that we make this money. Some of us do because we bargain hard, but it's not all of us, and it needs to be all of us. We all should be making that living wage. We all should be, like it was said earlier, when the minimum wage goes up, all our wages go up. But no, they want to keep everyone down. That's their goal, to keep everyone down except those, the 1%. Well, I don't want to be part of the 1%. I like being part of 99. I have more people that have the same things in common with me than they do. So I would love to be part of that 99. But you know, people are delaying starting families. Like I said, work multiple jobs. We have to hold together. We have to build together again. Like that should be the thing, being a collective and connectivity to connect with each other, to continue to keep building, because again, we can't do it alone. We just can't.
Emphasis on we can't do it alone. And you are definitely educating us on some things that we had no idea, that there were so many different, just so many differences. And so that's why unions are important. This is definitely a teachable moment for us all. So I want to shift to Dominique, from your perspective, because we got wages, we got affordable housing, we got student debt, we got a lot going on that we have to fight against. From your perspective, what are one or two of the most urgent issues leaders and institutions need to address for young workers right now?
Um, Jesus, one or two. Um, one one of the things that we have to start bringing them into the fold earlier, not waiting like, oh, just because you're an apprentice and you just started and you don't know anything, and we leave them on the wayside, and we wait like our apprenticeship runs 3 to 5 years in different trades, and we wait till they get out and to see if they're good enough for something. We need to start training and building each other as soon as we walk through the door. And as the mentality from some of our elders, our legacy members, and our ancestors, it was always gatekeeping. And it was always saying, hey, if you're not my people or my person, or if you don't look like me, or you're a woman, or you're in the LGBTQ plus thing, I don't really want to rock with you, so I ain't gonna help you. Not knowing that this person, this sibling right here, if I fall forward, I need you to catch me. If I fall backwards, I need you to catch me. And I'm going to do the same thing while I'm here. We lost that. We lost that culture and that unity to actually believe that we got each other's back. And the more that we have our young people walking in that door and we're showing them that we don't care about them, that we don't have their back, we're going to lose that membership, that retention. Then our numbers go down. And guess what happened when our numbers go down? We can't feed that workforce. Then our market share go down. Our market share goes down. Those non-union companies come in. The things that this administration is coming in is building them up so we can lose our right to collectively bargain. So with the young workers coming in, and I was there. I started at 18 years old and I didn't know shit from shat, right? But I knew that there were people there that I gravitated to that took me under their wing just to keep it real with me and teach me everything that they know because they empowered me to say, "Hey, I need you." Because without you, it won't be us. Without you, I'm not going to get the pension. I'm not going to get to retire. So if we start empowering our young folks when they get in that door, it's going to change the game.
Ooh, that, yeah.
I'm like one or two things. I'm trying to get it together. But
Um, you answered the question in the best way that you really could have ever possibly answered that, because sometimes as community organizers, as advocates, as activists, we get stuck on the issue as just a policy change, when sometimes the issue is in community. It's internal, it's in your heart, it's in your passion, it's in your mindset, it's in the love that you bring, it's in the joy that you bring to the conversation. It is not just the issue. There are issues, there will be issues, but what is in your heart? What are we offering to community? So that resonated with me. And even more so, I think it might even resonate with, you, Natalie, when is from your perspective, maybe a little bit about, what that, maybe there's a separate issue, but I kind of want you to just chime in on how you're feeling on what torches being passed looks like, what it should look like, or because I know we're losing young people in the movement, and it's a reason that that's happening. So I'm gonna pass it to you because you're closest to that problem, so you're closest to the solution.
Yes, I definitely think that we are losing young people to the movement, but I will also say that there are a lot more young people invested than I thought there were. So I think that's also hopeful to see as well. I also think that since I also think there's probably a little more of a disconnect between generations than we'd all like to admit. But I think that because this generation has kind of grown up in the world of technology and the world of social media and the world of Instagram, there tends to be sometimes this, oh, y'all aren't tough, y'all are like snowflake babies, like that type of thing that kind of goes on. And I think it kind of can dissuade people my age from going in spaces where they need to collaborate with older people. I think there also needs to just be a recentering and understanding that one, respect goes both ways, of course, but also like we need to come back to this idea that no one's gonna fight this fight alone. And I think this goes back to what someone was just saying about not reinventing the wheel. But if we're not going back to the people who created the wheel, then we're not gonna know what to do. So I think there's a place, and I hope to start facilitating or opening up more doors for people to have these types of conversations with older people that are also doing the work. I think that the NAACP is doing a great job at spearheading this by the convening that we had, where we were able to talk to leaders that are older than us and learn from them how we can continue to disseminate this information. So I think as we become, I think it really starts with training youth leaders and then having youth leaders go back, disseminate that information, and then kind of slowly bring people in. And I think we also have to be okay with knowing that this might not be a radical change, but this might be more of an incremental change. And I believe that the most sustainable changes have been incremental. So I think that we're on our way, but those are some of my thoughts regarding that. I also think young people are just tired. I think there's been a loss of hope, which makes sense. However, like I said, I always try to fire my unit up. Like, we can't wallow in despair, y'all. Like, we got to get fired up and ready to work. But that heavy feeling is very real. And I think a lot of people are thinking, like I said, if my grandparents and my great grandparents and my parents were fighting this fight, then, and they were doing the same thing, then what's going on? But that brings me back to the idea of celebrating small wins, because the media and the news likes to show us the negative, but there's also so much positive happening as well. There's so many cases that are being won. There are so many things happening that are pushing us forward. So I think there really needs to be a recentering on that as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing, Natalie, because when you say like we can't wallow in despair. I think that is probably the most critical piece of information that we all need to, leave with. And as a point of personal privilege, I just think about, back to what you were saying, Dominique, of, getting people invested while they're young, but also just to honor those who have organized before me. I'm so thankful that I have mentors in the space, a lot of Black women who just came in and wanted to show me the ropes, and Black men as well. But I would say that, with many of us, even on this call, we are successful because of the lessons of our ancestors, because of the lessons of our community. So this is really good, this conversation we're having. But now I'm gonna pass it to, well, not pass it to anyone just yet, but I want to start looking at some of the questions that we have in the chat. One of the questions that Dominique, you already answered, but I just wanted to just offer an opportunity for Aaron or Brandon or Dominique to answer this question again. How do you overcome the fear of retaliation when you speak up?
Can you jump
I know
in?
that's, I was gonna say that's a deep question, but yeah.
Um, how do you overcome the fear of retaliation? You just have to know what you're speaking up about, and you have to truly believe in what you're speaking up about. Like, I give you an example. Yesterday, I did a candlelight vigil in Michigan for the slain AFGE brother, Alex Freddie, slain by ICE. And I always hear they say, don't read the comments of videos that get posted, right? Never read the comments, because I'd say this. If I didn't have thick skin, I wouldn't be in this. I wouldn't be in this lane. But I know, or at least I feel what I'm doing is right. And if you have that feeling what you're doing is right, the retaliation doesn't matter, right? Because it's about that. It's about your heart, right? Like I know I might be rambling, but like I really feel this. Like it's about your heart. When you stand up for something, there is no better feeling. And sometimes you want the retaliation. Sometimes you want people to come back at you. Because that means you you ruffle some feathers, right? You got some people uncomfortable, right? So you must be saying something right. Because when people feel truly uncomfortable, when people come with this hate speech, when you're speaking about something positive, it's because they don't have anything real to say. So so come what may, if you're standing up for what you believe in, come what may, because the message is worth the retaliation, and the message will outlast the retaliation.
Oh, oh yeah, go ahead, Dominique. That was good though.
Oh no, I just was like, yes. I answered the question. I wrote it out, but one of the things is I don't think you can ever get over the fear because it's where that fear is placed. So if I know if I'm speaking up on the job site against my foreman, I can be laid off. That might be my fear, but my fear will never be speaking up. because I walk with purpose. I have faith in who I am and where I come from and what I represent. But I also always tell people, if you're going to speak up, if you're going to do anything, make sure you on solid ground. Make sure you got your receipts. Make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, because they're gonna come for you. That retaliation is there. It's gonna come. But you make sure you always stay true to yourself. And when it comes, there are ways to navigate that. That's why I say I leave with education as well. There's ways to navigate that. And by all means, if it ain't working, if it's tapping into your sanity and how you feel and how you love and how you sleep and how you eat and how you take care of your family, sometimes it's better to just walk away. But speaking up should never be that fear. You're gonna always think about those consequences or what comes after. That's where that fear comes from. But speaking up, don't fear that.
That's right. Thank you, both for answering that question, because I just think in general that question just comes up, and a lot of people they're just scared to even ask the question, scared to even answer the question, scared to do something about that. So next we have another question in here, and I'm gonna cue it up to Brandon, and maybe Natalie, you might be able to chime in as well from a youth perspective. Someone did ask a question. They asked it a little bit partisan like, and we are all non we are nonpartisan, so I had to reframe it. But they basically are asking what kind of strategies can be effective in states like Texas, where the organizing infrastructure, it does exist, but of course Texas is so big, so it's like it's a lot going on. Brandon, and visibility might look a little bit different for maybe unions on the call, or maybe NAACP branches and chapters. How about these recent happenings in Texas? And I'm thinking about redistricting, I'm thinking about the elections, I'm thinking about all these different things. So how can we leverage what's already happening in Texas, people that are running in Texas that we might align with or not, maybe not align with? How do we strengthen that community engagement in places like that?
I think it's really important to know that there's not a cookie cutter strategy for any place, right? But there are places that we're seeing the wins make sense and that others can use as models of success. Whether it's, we saw our sister Janae Nelson advocating at the Supreme Court around what's happening in Louisiana. We see the Congressman, District 18, that just won the United States House of Rep seat there, in a place where Trump won by over 17 points during his election. We're seeing these wins happen, but we know a lot of the efforts that we're doing and navigating on, specifically around unions and labor organizations at the federal level here at the nation's capital, is that we have to understand that we can't do this work alone from a larger, higher standpoint. We have to really invest at the state and local level. And it's also great and better to figure out how to invest with coalitions that are on the ground already doing this work. So Melanie Campbell's National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, to many of the conveners that are going out and advocating on right, Black Voters Matter. We have to invest in these tried and true organizations that have their ear and eye to the ground, and ears and eye to the ground directly with those that are being impacted from the issues that are taking place across this country. Because it's only when we're able to, I don't want to say dummy it down, but not talk up here in the clouds, but truly tell people what we're advocating on, what we're advocating for, and what it truly means to work alongside us for a common goal and a common outcome. Can we truly show up together to fight and win? And so I think it takes all of those and more, but us showing up like we are in this space to inform each other, to educate each other, and to bring others into the fold who otherwise aren't privy to these kind of conversations. I know many times we're speaking to our own bubbles, but we have to bring in others into this fold, because it's truly going to take us all to truly transform and see the communities that we need, and to transform this democracy into what it was intended to be.
All right. Thank you for that, Brandon. We need those key strategies as to how we gonna win this thing. And we are going to begin closing now. Natalie, you will get I'm still gonna give you some time to, answer that question, but once Natalie finishes, to all panelists, I just want you all to just give us that final last remark, that final push. How do we remain engaged with your unions? How do we remain engaged in what's coming up next? But let's try to keep that 1 minute because I know, we've kind of gone, deep into the time. But this was such a critical conversation. So I want to just start closing out. But Natalie, please answer the question and just let us know, what's to come at your chapter. And then, I'll pass it to Dominique, Aaron, and then Brandon. You can close us out. 1 minute though, y'all. 1 minute. All
Yes,
right,
I
all right.
got you. I kind of was just going to echo what Mr. Brandon said. It's really about looking at the work that's already being done because I'm looking at the question and obviously something is changing and something is changing for the better. So we know that whatever's happening is working, but I think it can be, I kind of identify with the maybe hesitation or anxiety that may come as someone who wants to get involved but doesn't really know how to start. But I promise you the easiest way to start is just email, call, and just say, I'm interested in working with you to do this, this, and this. And it's daunting, but organizers are going to be more than happy to welcome you for you to keep advancing the work. And then once someone else sees you do that, that's going to plant a seed for the next young person and then the next young person and the next young person. And I know it happens because I've seen it happen on my campus as well. So I understand that it could be scary, but that really is the first step. As far as what's to come from the cause reportability cohort, that Miss Katora Butler Reed is leading. There are about 30 of us. We meet on Mondays and we have a lot of things that we're working on, from creating a student bill of rights all the way through proposing legislation that we hopefully one day get to actually bring to lawmakers. So we're really excited about the work that we'll be doing, and you'll be hearing from us soon. I am very grateful for the opportunity to speak to all of you all, and I hope to see you guys on Saturday. And to echo what someone said to echo what someone said earlier, we're not up next, we are up now. So
Yes, thank you for that, Natalie. We are so excited to see what the cohort is doing, and what you're doing on your campus as well. Thank you. Dominique.
I'll just keep it simple. Keep showing up and show out. And anytime that you think that you are alone, your ancestors are right with you. And then you got a sister now too. That's all, guys. See y'all on Saturday.
We will see you on Saturday. All right. So now I'm gonna pass it to you, Aaron.
Yeah, just to echo what Dominique said, we got to show up and show out. We got to stick together. We got to realize that this is not just me. This is not just you. This is us as a collective. The things that I have coming up, bargaining unit is in local. It's in bargaining right now, and at the University of Michigan, we kind of set the pace for the wages in the state. So we're holding on the state level. I'm testifying next week because we have a mandatory overtime bill that we're trying to get pushed through. So healthcare workers won't have to work mandatory overtime, because how can we take care of you when we're falling out, passing out ourselves? That's just not safe. And I look forward to seeing everybody at the uh, Mars rally on Saturday. I do have a short speaking role. Like they let the big dog loose. No, joking. But I do have a short speaking role, and I'm excited. I'm just excited. Just being in this environment with you all. I know it's gonna be so empowering on Saturday. I'm just excited. Look, excitement. That's the name of the game.
Fired
Excitement.
up. They let the big dog loose. This
You
this
heard
is
me.
Aaron's words. Not mine. I'm just repeating what he said. So now I'm gonna pass it to Brandon to wrap us up with the fireside chat. Thank you all.
Oh man, I'm loving the energy here. And I was thinking about when I was at NAACP National Convention last year in the Youth and College Division. I would say fired up, ready to go. And I know that's Derek's main theme, call to action for you all too. But what we all know is that we aren't going to stop, right? Our educators, our students, we aren't going to stop. Everyone here on this call, because we know what is at stake, right? We won't give up. And so, as educators at the NEA and even advocates in this fight alongside you all, we will keep organizing. We will keep speaking out with and alongside all of you all here on the call and standing together, because we know we do this not for ourselves, but for those that are coming after us. And as I said, as we know what's at stake, we know that our nation needs to truly live up to its promise that everyone can truly grow into their brilliance, a nation where every child, every young person can learn and can pursue their dreams without crushing debt, as we've been talking about, and where every worker can build a stable future. So we're going to keep pushing forward. We're definitely looking forward to being alongside and in community with you all on Sunday. And then I'm also reminded of something that Dr. King said, and why we're still here and what we're doing right now in this time, is that we have to be reminded of his words, that we have to live in a nation that lives up to the true meaning of its creed, that all are created equal and deserve a fair chance to thrive. And so thank you for this opportunity.
Yes. If you all could drop fire emojis in the chat, some clap emojis. We are so thankful for all of you, for everything that you've brought to this conversation. We really appreciate these words of wisdom, words of encouragement, words of vigor, words of passion. So thank you all. We appreciate it. And we're gonna keep it rolling. And we're gonna start closing out. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you
Next.
all. Have a great night.
All right, good night, y'all. So next, as we're wrapping up, we have just a few words left from our fearless leader, Robin Williams, chair of the NAACP National Labor Committee. We are so thankful for all of the work and organizing that you've done, but definitely bringing us to having these intergenerational conversations as we, are shifting into the Young Workers March. So without further ado.
Couture, my sister, I am fired up and I am excited about Saturday. This was an awesome panel discussion tonight. Fireside is what we need here in DC because it's cold here. It is cold, but you all bring in the hot power and energy here on Saturday, and we are so excited. So let me get started by thanking American Federation of Government Workers and President Kelly, and also Kindred. What Kindred, this was his brainstorm to bring young workers from across the country into DC to talk about the issues, all the things that young people are facing right now. An economy that is not working for young people. Especially for young people, housing issues, unaffordable housing, can't hardly buy groceries. Groceries are so high, but also affordable health care, affordable child care, and then secure jobs. We know that 319,000 federal workers left the workplace in the last year or so. 24,000 of those workers were probationary workers. And most of probationary workers are young workers that are coming into the federal government on probation, and they lost their jobs under this administration. Couture, thank you for putting this together tonight. I want to thank the NAACP and my great president, Derek Johnson, for answering my call. When I said that there's a young workers march happening in DC and labor is leading it, Derek said we're on board. And our Youth and College division has done an excellent job working with our union partners to ensure that our NAACP youth and college units are on board with this. Couture, thank you and thank Derek and thank the whole team for putting this work in. Now, as we think about what's going to happen on Saturday, this is so appropriate at this time. Black History Month, February. Black History Month, the month that I was born, is such a great month. I was thinking about my sister, Rosa Parks. We celebrated her birthday on February 4th, 2 days after mine. But every time I see the visions and the stories of Rosa Parks, I think about Claudia COVID. She was the first young lady on the bus in Montgomery that refused to give up her seat. She was 15 years old, coming from her high school. And she sat in the seat on the bus that she decided to sit. 15 years old. And when she was told to get up out of her seat and make her seat available to a white passenger, she said, no, it is my constitutional right to sit in this seat at 15 years old. Later on, when she was interviewed, she said she felt the pressure of Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth pushing her down in that seat and refused to get up out of that seat. She was 15 years old. Julian Barnes, he started in his 20s fighting for civil rights, organizing young people, even while he was in college. When he was about 25 years old, he served in the Georgia House of Representatives. At 28, Julian Barnes, one of our leaders of the NAACP, he was nominated for the Vice President of the United States at 28. I just saw in the chat, someone took my talking points. This administration that we are facing right now will not be here forever. As a matter of fact, folks are older than I, that's in Congress and that occupies the White House. You got now. Young people, activists, you are our union leaders now. I heard all of these panelists have all these big degrees. You can run this country now. You will run Congress one day. You will run our state and local legislators one day. You will create policy one day, not in the far future, but you will do it soon. You can do it right now. The young lady, Dominique, girl, you remind me of me when I started in the labor movement in my 20s. Fearless, not afraid to speak up and stand up. So you all have me so excited. I'm pumped up and I'm ready to support thousands of young workers coming to my home city, my birthplace, the place that we marched for civil rights, human rights, and workers' rights. I am so excited that you all decided to do this and do this now. So when I encourage you all, Natalie said sometimes young people, you feel like you're tired. You can't get tired. I just turned 62 and I still have my mentor saying, Robin, you cannot get tired. If I can't get tired, you definitely cannot get tired. We must take care of ourselves. I want you all to get rest. Please stay hydrated. Stay hydrated. Start right now, drinking your water and getting your rest. Be prepared to come here to Washington, D.C., whether you're already here or you're coming in on tomorrow, Friday, or you're coming on Saturday. Dress warm. Be prepared. Stay the course. Do all that you do. Do it and love. All that you do, move collectively. All that you do not leave one student or one worker behind. All of us go together. Now, you all coming to DC, we talk about essential workers. Remember the bus drivers, the metro drivers when you get on those buses. Remember when you go to the store, the retail workers, when you purchase your drinks and your food, the restaurant workers, when you stop to get a bite to eat, remember our essential workers here in DC. They have worked through this recent snowstorm. They are young. Most retail workers are moving. They are young workers. So you all remember to move collectively, move and love, move as one. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. Keep the fire going. Keep it going. Keep leading now. Keep leading now. So I want you all to put in the chat, and you all remember, you got now. You have now, not tomorrow, but now. I want to leave you with this. Isaiah 11:6 in the Old Testament. This passage describes a peaceful, transformed, and harmonious community. This verse, Isaiah 11:6, a little child shall lead us. This verse symbolizes a future kingdom where instead of conflict, there is peace and innocence, with young people guiding us with unique abilities and perspectives. That, my brothers, sisters, friends, that is out of the Bible. Jesus was young when he led, and you all will lead us. Go in peace, go in grace, and go successfully on Saturday. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
And with that, thank you so much for those encouraging, and powerful words, Leader Williams. We appreciate your wisdom, and we appreciate all of the work that you have done to get us to this point. And now, of course, our calls to action. I'm going to pass it to our fearless leader, Derek Lewis, who is going to close us out and let us know what is coming up next for the NAACP. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Couture. Thank you, Leader Williams, for all the work that you do to support the Youth in College Division. I'm going to start with what I ended with. I'm going to end with what I started with. What I started with was, again, on Saturday, if you are in Region 7, if you have the possibility, if you have the ability to meet us here in Washington, D.C., please meet us here for the Young Worker March on Washington. We're excited for Region 7 that is mobilizing, but also, as I continue to say, we want to make sure that we can show up in people power. We will make sure that we will share the link with you if you want to engage and mobilize with us. It's after we have the conversation, we march, right? And after we march, if we can go on to the next slide, we still continue in our advocacy. So after the march, what then? You lean in with us and you continue to fight with us. First, we have our SLAM training. SLAM stands for our State Legislative Advocacy Month. You have all the issues. You're coming to DC for federal advocacy and to continue the work that we're going to do. But now we're asking you to do this on your state level. So our State Legislative Advocacy Month is where we're coordinating our states across the NAACP to ensure that they're having conversations with their stakeholders, their legislators on the state level, to ensure that in the states that they live in, that they can continue to do that. Now, what we want to do is to prepare you for that moment. We don't want you to show up unprepared. So to prepare you for the moment, so you can stay ready and not get ready, we're asking that you come to the training on February 10th. This is February 10th to support you in your individual state for the State Legislative Advocacy Month coordination. But most importantly, as we go into February, we know that February is Black History Month. Some people may say that it's the month of love as well. But we're asking you for the love of Blackness, to understand that when it comes to loving our community, when it comes to being a part of our community, that we cannot love in our community if we're not advocating for our community. We cannot love for our community if we're not protecting our community. We can't love our community if we're not advancing our community. So we're asking you to become an issue area champion for the love of Blackness, if that's for education, if that's for economics, if that's for health, if that's for environmental climate justice. Whatever the issue is, we want to make sure that we have you identified in your issue area strength so we can best prepare you to continue to work, if that is as an organizer, if that's as a unit leader, if that's as a member, or if you're just an affiliate of the NAACP. The work does not stop here, the work continues, because we know that all these things that I just uplifted from our state legislative advocacy month for the love of Blackness issue area champions, that we are all have our eyes on the midterm election. So it's not just the primaries. Yes, we're going to engage in the primaries. Yes, we're going to engage in the general election. But as a youth body, we are steadfast in ensuring that this is the year that we continue to turn out en masse. The last time that youth turned out en masse in the midterm election was in 2018 at 35%. I know that with everything that's going on in this current political climate, that we can continue to exceed that and make this year a historic year as well. So this is the work that we have ahead of us. I'm excited that we'll continue to move as one unit, but we cannot do it unless we are connected. So Couture, I'll kick it back to you. Thank you for hosting this call, Couture, and for your leadership.
Thank you as well. Well, y'all, I don't have much to say other than that. You closed phenomenally. This was a timely conversation, not just for the Youth and College Division, not just for NAACP as an association, not just for AFGE, but if you listen to the conversation today, then you know that it is critical and it is a must that we are working together consistently on all of the issues that we are faced with. So continue to join us. If you haven't already become a member of the NAACP, become a member of some of the unions that are represented here today. But most importantly, do the work and lean on each other. We cannot rest right now. Well, we can rest a little bit, but we cannot stop the work. We have to continue the legacy. We have to continue uplifting those who have come before us. And most importantly, fighting for our future, fighting to protect our future. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you on Saturday.